Welcome back to Kind Regards the show. There's a big blockage surrounding creativity, and it stopped me from creating anything for a long, long time. And I think it could be stopping you too. If you don't think of yourself as creative, that's okay. I think there's a lot to be found here, even if you don't think like you're the kind of person who would make YouTube videos or write articles or paint pictures or something like that. So stick with it. I watched a video the other day from Connor Woodman called "You Consumed Enough, God Wants You to Start Creating." And in this video, and I urge you to check it out, it's really great stuff. He talks about how he's working as a pizza delivery driver, he's folding some boxes out the back, and he just went, oh, what am I doing? Anyone could do this work. It feels so meaningless. What am I doing with my life? And he said, I've got to start creating. I've got to start producing something meaningful for other people. I've got to contribute to the world in some way. And so what did Connor Woodman do with this epiphany that he apparently has had many times but never really acted on? Well, he says that he made a big mistake, and his mistake was to spend a year. It's a year-long mistake, and Connor, if you ever watch this, I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's a rough time to spend a year on something and it not be the right move in hindsight. But he spent a year consuming a different kind, a more productive kind of consumption. He read all the productivity books, all those leading books, Atomic Habits, Deep Work, all about, how to become a creator, how to become an artist, how to become someone who's contributing to the world. And he thought, oh, this will help me. This will help me produce something. Only a year later did he realize that that's just more consumption. That's just, it had him stuck in the same loop of taking in, and not actually producing anything meaningful. From his perspective as a Christian, I assume he is, he speaks like a Christian in this video. We are all put here by God from the Christian perspective to be producers, to create things for others, whether that's bread or, carpentry in the case of the long-haired carpenter that Christians love so much, or whether it's, making jewelry or making videos or whatever. And to not do that is to not fulfill our sort of earthly obligations, to contribute to others, contribute to the world, produce things of meaning and value, according to your sort of, God-given value compass. I tend to agree with him here. I tend to agree that too much consumption is a problem, and it leaves us feeling sort of impotent to make a generous contribution to the world in whatever form that might be. Now, there are some specific problems with too much consumption that I'd like to address here before moving on to sort of how we can become more creative people and do what Connor Woodman ends up doing as he tells the story in the video. One problem is that we feel like we can't do what the creators who we're consuming their content do. So, sometimes I read Rebecca Solnit, who is a absolutely brilliant, inspiring, insightful, concise. She's a writer. She writes essays, and they are packed. Every paragraph is interesting and wise and clever and often funny. She's brilliant. And whenever I read her, I go, oh my God, I'll never. I write some essays for the Substack, and I just go, how am I going to compete with this? She's so good. I read The Remains of the Day, which is a beautiful, beautiful novel. I read Stoner recently by John Williams. Again, beautiful, precise, just so wise, heartfelt, amazing novels. I write a bit of fiction in my spare time. How am I? Oh my God, I'm terrible. Good stand-up comedy, great paintings. This is a high bar. We are not impressive in the way that they're impressive. How can we ever become Van Gogh? The problem with this, of course, is that we're starting at the end. We're looking at their work and going, how can I do that? We can't. We're at the beginning. We're not at the end. Solnit has been writing for decades is way older than I am. I've been writing for maybe 2 years on and off. Of course, I'm not going to achieve what she can achieve. It's stand-up comics have been bombing, all of them, in nightclubs, silent nightclubs, people who hate them, enduring their 10 minutes, open mic, going, oh, when is this going to end? For 10 years, they go through this before they start being funny, confident on stage, being able to put out the YouTube shorts that we all enjoy. So, of course, we see them doing it and we go, I'll never be that funny. But that's not the point. They started at the start, they bombed at the open mics, and we can do that too. Consuming too much content convinces us not only that we'll never be as good as these people, but also, in another sense, that we are not as impressive as they are. Solnit was, she's involved in the anti-nuclear protests. She's, friends with all these cool writers. She goes walking in the Sierra Nevada. She has this cool life and her work is packed with experience. And so I read it and I go, oh, well, who am I? I'm not Hemingway in Paris, rubbing shoulders with cool writers in the whatever decade he was there. I'm not, I'm not Hunter S. Thompson in Las Vegas. So who am I? I'm just some guy. I live in a small coastal town in Australia. I try and write every morning, and I go to work in the Arvos. What is there to be shared? So it convinces us that we're not impressive enough and we don't have the skills. But while that stuff might feel really true, another thing is true. And that is our everyday, ordinary lives, our ordinary struggles. And we're all struggling. We all have our troubles. These are almost universal. Everyone has to fight against the habits of their parents and their family. Everyone has to follow their own value compass in spite of the culture trying to dominate us and fit us into certain molds. Everybody is trying to live a little bit healthier, a little bit calmer, a little bit saner. And our specific struggles of, watching too much YouTube and trying to fight to break this addiction, that is meaningful. There is wisdom in that. There is insight in that and value there to be gleaned by someone. And to say, well, I'm not escaping Albanian bandits, I'm not in Paris in the 1920s, therefore who would care about me, is to ignore the fact that what we're going through can connect with other people, can connect with other people's struggles, make them feel less alone, like, do you guys remember reading that first piece that spoke to you, whether it's, super cliche like Catcher in the Rye or something more obscure, that first poem where you went, oh my God, they felt it too? In the 1700s, they felt lonely just like me. What the hell? We've had that. People have gifted us this beautiful, generous contribution of solace from the loneliness and atomization. Our necessary subjectivity isolates us from the world. And good art, good contribution makes us feel less alone. And it also can give us little bits of wisdom to free us from our little mental prisons, our small thought traps. Someone says something about, well, in my case, it was Seth Godin said something about creativity, unlocked the whole thing for me. Boom. Someone writes something about how to journal properly, and I go, oh, that's why my journaling feels so impotent. And boom, I'm on a new track. Their little lesson that they've learned and their willingness to contribute to others and to put that out into the world freed me, made me a more free person. That's a beautiful thing. And one of the things that Seth Godin says, which is crucially important, is that the work is never going to be good enough for everybody. The work is never going to be good enough for everybody. We cannot please everyone. Alfred Adler in Adlerian Psychology says the same thing. The Courage to be Disliked, which is not written by him, but is written by disciples of him. They say if you want to impress 10 different people in a room, you're going to become a liar. You're going to be a hack. If you want comedy, want to make comedy that everyone loves, my granddad, a farmer, my mum, an ex-teacher from England, and me, a young person, all of them are going to like it, you're going to be a hack. The work is going to suck. At the very least, you're going to be a liar. 10 different people have 10 different values. You want to please them all? Be a chameleon. Lose yourself in the process. The work is never going to be good enough for everybody. Some people are not going to like the work. I get comments sometimes that say, "This sucks." Get a life. No one cares, and they're very few and far between. Thanks for that, by the way, sweet viewers. But some people think that this sucks. And Seth Godin says the work is never going to be good enough for everybody, but it is already good enough for somebody. Somebody out there is going through what you're going through. Somebody out there will get insight and wisdom from your little lessons, or even not even lessons, just you saying, "This is really hard for me and I struggle with it every day." That can help someone, that can give someone a bit of peace of mind and go, "Oh, it's not just me whose family thinks that exercise is a jip promoted by, big running shoe, or big gym. Oh, someone else is fighting to be healthy. Someone else is fighting to meditate every day." And it really touches people and really makes a big difference. And that difference is what Connor Woodman gave me, standing in the forest, talking to a camera. Um, you know, in a way, God bless him, but in a way, is he qualified? Did he study psychology to give me psychological insight? No, he's a delivery driver in the UK, and he learned some stuff through his own life, and he gave that gift to me. Daniela at Steeping Sundays, which is a Substack that I enjoy, gave that to me when she wrote an article about missing a train on the way to a meditation class. She misses her train and she's all stressed out. And then she realizes, oh, this is undermining the very thing I'm going to seek, peace of mind. She writes a little 1,000-word article about this, and I read it and I go, yeah, that's so true. I'm in that situation, a situation like it all the time, man. And we can give this to other people. Gareth Lydiard, a great songwriter, he writes songs and they speak to me, man. He's a great Australian songwriter. Check him out, by the way. Yeah, so if this kind of inspires you and makes you think, maybe I could make a contribution, maybe I could stop just taking in content all the time, and instead I could actually make something. I really recommend The Practice by Seth Godin. He defines art super broadly. Anything that makes a generous contribution, taking a risk that might not work. Art always might not work. It could bomb. It could suck. People could hate it. But taking that risk and making a generous contribution that tries to make change happen in the world, that might foster connection, that's what art is. It can be jewelry. It can be a yoga class. It can be painting pictures and leaving them in random people's letterboxes. The key thing is it's designed for an audience and it goes out there in the world. We don't hoard our art. We don't hoard our ideas. We send it out there. We let people enjoy it and we offer it to them. We say, hey, I made this. Would you like this? That book is invaluable. I'm really into it, but there's a million like it. Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. There's another great one called The War of Art. I haven't read it, but I hear it's great. There's a million books out there about how to make our generous contribution. What are the little tools that we need, the little habits that help us, and that all we need is an hour a day. All we need is we find our hour and we can put in the little bit of work, chip away at it. We get better and better over time. These videos, I think, have. The articles definitely have. You can go back and read those early articles. They suck. No respect for paragraph breaks. None whatsoever. Huge paragraphs, uncapitalized words, and, just it's crazy. There's a great segue somewhere in there where I say there's a lot to be said on creativity. Or there's a lot to be said on education. It sucks. Anyways, the work gets better. And from the get-go, from the first piece of work to the 10th, to the 100th, to the 1,000th, someone out there will go, oh, this was really cool. Thanks. I mean, look at the comments on my videos. I'm just some guy. I'm just some guy who's sharing his path. Your path is just as valid and just as useful and can help someone just as much. I really believe that. So yeah, if this speaks to you, great. If it scares the crap out of you, that's okay. I'm not trying to say what we all should do, but I do think that it's good for my peace of mind and my sense of contribution in the world, my sense that it's good for me to be here, that the world is glad that I'm here. It's good for my sense of that to make stuff for other people. And I love doing it and I want to share that. I want as many people to enjoy that feeling of contribution as I do. or as they can, as I can promote that. I want that many people to do it. Anyways, that's enough from me. Thanks very much for being here. I hope this is useful to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Power to the people. There's a Substack link where I write those articles I was talking about. There's also a YouTube and a Spotify link, so you can get the content how you like it. But yeah, thanks for being here. Like and subscribe. Take it easy. Thanks.